Well, according to an anonymously sourced story in BuzzFeed, President Trump reportedly told his now former lawyer, Michael Cohen, to lie to Congress about the possible Trump Tower project in Moscow. As I mentioned, BuzzFeed is reporting that Trump wanted Cohen to say the negotiations ended much earlier than they did. Now, Cohen reportedly told Congress the negotiations ended in January 2016, but work on the deal, or work to get to a deal, because the hotel was never built in Russia, there was no deal, reportedly continued until June 2016, 6 months after Cohen claimed the negotiations ended. Now, Cohen, of course, pled guilty to lying about that testimony, among other things, last year, and he's now rethinking whether to testify before Congress publicly again next month. The president's daughter, Ivanka, and son, Donald Trump Jr., reportedly received regular updates on the project, which in and of itself isn't unusual because they run the Trump companies. Here's what former House Speaker Newt Gingrich had to say about it earlier today.
This is an absurdity. Look, the news media will take any possible negative about Trump and maximize it, whether it's true or not, because it fits their bias and the degree to which they dislike Trump. But this is an absurdity. I mean, can you imagine any president of the United States being dumb enough to say to somebody, I'd like you to go over now and lie to Congress? It's crazy, and only the modern liberal media would even give it any credit.
And I want to note that at the time, June of 2016, is when Ivanka Trump was also running the Trump company. She's, of course, in the White House today. This all reportedly happened before Donald Trump was elected president. He was a private sector citizen. And that's where I want to welcome in former federal prosecutor, our very good friend, Larry Klayman. Larry is, of course, also the founder of Freedom Watch. Larry, always great to see you. I read this BuzzFeed story, and I said, where is even if it's true, I don't believe it's true, Michael Cohen's a serial liar. BuzzFeed has two anonymous sources. They claim to be some kind of federal agent, presumably FBI or DOJ agents. But where's the there? All I'm reading is that a businessman asked his lawyer to do something, and the lawyer was too stupid, because I think Michael Cohen is not a smart man, was too stupid to say to his client that would be illegal. In fact, the lawyer went and reportedly did it. But again, I don't believe any of it. So what is the deal behind this story?
John, that's a good point. But there's another part of this story that people have to know. And I've dealt with this character now for 25 years. His name is Lanny Davis.
Yes.
He's perhaps the most sleazy lawyer I've ever dealt with in Washington, D.C., close friend of the Clintons, went to Yale Law School with them, was behind a lot of the shenanigans back in the 1990s when Bill Clinton was being impeached. You see him on television. This is a Lanny Davis special. And he has sold his client, Michael Cohen, down the line into possible another perjury count, ultimately. But he knows no bounds. He puts the interests of the Democratic Party and himself ahead of everybody else. And I think that is what generated this story. Now, in the backdrop of all of this, John, is the fact that people are starting to smell blood when it comes to the president. You have the Attorney General designate Bill Barr saying that Mueller's a great friend, a man of integrity. I'm going to let him do, in effect, what he wants. You have Giuliani, the president's lawyer, going on TV. I mean, God knows what went through his mind when he said, I'm not sure if other people have colluded with Russia on the campaign. A number of other factors that are starting to build up. So publications like BuzzFeed feel that they have license to print lies to help take the president down. Of course, BuzzFeed is a very left-wing publication. They want the president figuratively and legally dead.
All right. Well, former Attorney General Eric Holder, Larry, also weighed in on the report on Twitter earlier today. He tweeted, quote, if true and proof must be examined, Congress must begin impeachment proceedings and Barr must refer, at a minimum, the relevant portions of material discovered by Mueller. This is a potential inflection point. Now, Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Eric Holder the first and only United States Attorney General in history to be held in both criminal and civil contempt of Congress? I mean, is this not the pot calling the kettle black?
He was certainly held in civil contempt, John, but more important than that even is the fact that during the Clinton years, he was actually selling pardons for cold cash on behalf of Bill Clinton, including Mark Rich, a hardened criminal who had fled to Israel at the time. And he did a number of other things. He covered up the Chinagate scandal. He was involved in what went on at the border with a border agent that was killed. I mean, the guy is corrupt.
Yeah, but Larry, to stop you there, that's where he was held in civil and criminal contempt of Congress. During Operation Fast and Furious, he and Obama and their ATF trafficking guns down to the Mexican cartels, a 50 caliber rifle, the same ones our special operations snipers use, one of those Fast and Furious guns found by the DEA and federales in El Chapo's stash of weapons. Holder goes before Congress to account for the death of Border Patrol agent Brian Terry by one of these guns. He lies to Congress. He refuses to talk to Congress. He's held in civil and criminal contempt. Most Americans don't even know about that. They don't even know about that. Right. The media buried it.
And not coincidentally, when you meet Eric Holder, and I've met him, he's very charming, like many of the Democrats are. Sure. He's going to run for president, by the way. No doubt
I'm sure
about
he is.
That.
Yeah.
Himself for that, but he is a criminal in his own right. A number of years ago, I'll give you a little vignette. I saw him at a White House Correspondents' Dinner after party. I never said hello to him because I have no respect for him, but I figured, okay, I had a couple drinks, I'll say hello. And he says to me, he's Attorney General at the time, he says, Larry, have you come to serve me with a subpoena? I mean, it was somewhat funny, but also ironic. I mean, because the guy, frankly, is dirty. And that's what you have out there right now is that, like I said, John, they do smell blood. They're going to pour it on. And they think they have the president on the ropes, but he's smarter than they are.
Yeah.
And we're fighting him at Freedom Watch and elsewhere, and they're not going to succeed. But we, the American people, need to rise up and protect our great president at this time.
Look, Larry, I agree with you. I think the double standard is so glaring, right? I mean, I want to move on and talk about Michael Cohen, but just a point. In 2014, the Washington Post did this glowing puff piece on the partnership between Eric Holder and Barack Obama and why it's so successful. But with Donald Trump, we hear his attorney general must be adversarial and must be independent. It was okay for Obama and Holder to have a partnership, but Trump's not allowed to have a loyal partner as his attorney general. Just mind-blowing and very frustrating. All right, before we run out of time in the segment, Larry, let's talk more about Cohen. So Cohen also admitted to paying a company to rig online polls for President Trump. So Cohen tweeted this. He tweeted that as for the Wall Street Journal article on poll rigging, what I did was at the direction of and for the sole benefit of Donald Trump. POTUS. I truly regret my blind loyalty to a man who doesn't deserve it. Now, the Wall Street Journal article said that Cohen paid a company called Redfinch Solutions, LLC, for their services in early 2015. When you dig into the story, apparently, Cohen is paid or reimbursed $50,000 by the Trump organization, but only gave Redfinch $13,000. So in addition to everything else, he's a thief who apparently put $37,000 in his own pocket. But even more important, Larry, this guy, if this is true, can't even rig polls properly because every poll had Hillary up by like 250 points. This is just another nonsensical lie by Cohen, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I was going to say, what poll is he talking about? Every poll was for Hillary Clinton. But look, the guy is just dirty to the core. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I hate to say this, and I'm not trying to beat up on Lanny Davis, but I've dealt with him. I've sued him. I mean, this is a Lanny Davis special. This is what it's all about. It's about taking the president out for the benefit of his Democrat Party. And he puts him up to it. And, Cohen, who went to the worst law school that exists in the United States, not a very bright lawyer. He was simply a bagman, takes the bait. But he's getting himself in deeper. And I think that he's going to have to answer for these lies.
Yeah, I cannot even believe this guy was ever able to pass the bar, even when I hear him speak. All right, Larry, please stick around. Much more to come. When we come back, Bill Barr, as Larry mentioned earlier, says he's had a 30-plus year friendship with Robert Mueller. Well, how does President Trump feel about that? We're going to tell you right after the break. All right, we're going to be talking more about Attorney General nominee Bill Barr's relationship with Special Counsel Robert Mueller. But first, let's take a phone call. I've got Robert in Maryland with me. Hi, Robert.
Good afternoon. I hope your lawyer's still with you. I'm sitting here looking at Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution, and it appears the President of the United States has quite a bit of power here.
Yeah.
This one phrase really caught my eye. He may, on extraordinary occasions, convene both houses. So it appears to me that he can convene the Congress to a joint session and speak to a joint session anytime he wishes if he just applies this section of the Constitution.
So, Robert, what you're saying is Nancy Pelosi can't cancel the State of the Union because Article 2 gives the president the power to convene both sessions. Very interesting. There's Larry Klayman, former federal prosecutor. Larry, what do you say? Our viewer Robert says the president can essentially order Congress to listen to the State of the Union from the chamber.
That's an excellent point. Robert is right. But the other thing he can do, you've got a Senate chamber there. And although there are only 100 seats on the well of the Senate, you have the galleries. So you can put the congressmen who do show up in the galleries. And frankly, as a strategic matter, I would do that and just say the heck with Nancy Pelosi and move on here. But
I tweeted that. I tweeted that. I said McConnell should just call it in the Senate chamber and let him do the State of the Union there. And whoever shows up, shows up. And Robert, thank you so much for the call. Thanks for watching. Excellent point. But Larry, to that point, do you think McConnell will do that? Will he completely bypass Pelosi? Or does he not want to face her wrath down the road?
No, I think he will. And look, that's not a big thing to bypass Pelosi on this. It's so ridiculous what she did. I believe they will. And like I said, in the gallery, you can seat the congressmen. You can seat the senators below. The congressmen can be in the gallery. And it'll be nationally televised. So Pelosi handed the president a gift on this one. It shows how vicious, petty, and frankly, out of control she is. And now is the time to crush Pelosi and her comrades in the House. The president has to hang tough. This is either the make or break of his presidency at this point.
All right, let's talk more, Larry, about Attorney General nominee Bill Barr's relationship. 30-plus years, I think 33 years, something like that. A friendship with special counsel Robert Mueller. Well, it reportedly concerns President Trump, understandably. CNN reports that Trump was caught off guard by how long his attorney general knew Mueller earlier this week. Excuse me. Barr said he's known Mueller, as we all heard during the testimony, for more than 30 years, and they're very good friends. You know, Larry, I don't know if the CNN report's accurate or not, but why would the president be caught off guard by this? You and I discussed this. Well, the first day Barr was named, that he's probably a good buddy of Mueller's. They go all the way back in DOJ together.
It could be that when the president interviewed Barr, that Barr just kind of slipped it by him and said, oh, I know Robert Mueller, blah, blah, blah. And then it came out at the hearing. I think anybody that saw that was shocked at the way Bill Barr rolled over. And now he's locked himself in. It's extremely dangerous. It's given a green light to Mueller. I mean, he's got the wind at his back now. And it wasn't more than a few days after that they came back and they subpoenaed my client, Jerry Corsi, to appear before the grand jury.
Yeah.
And these kinds of things. Excuse me, the stepson of Jerry Corsi.
Right. And you're representing the stepson as well, correct?
That's correct.
Right.
And there are other things that are going on right now. In fact, not long after that, I got another letter from the Senate Intel Committee with a subpoena saying that Jerry Corsi should testify there. So this is the risk of having an attorney general like Bill Barr. There's no protection here. Mueller's on a jihad. So is the Senate Intel Committee. I'm sure down the line something's going to happen with regard to the House Intel Committee and the House Judiciary Committee. He's got a green light. The president should withdraw the nomination of Bill Barr now.
Yeah.
Put someone in who's independent, who has some guts outside of the Washington swamp. And it's enough that Bill Barr calls Bob Mueller Bob. I mean, you got Bill and Bob. I guess that's Billy Bob. But this is not a joke. This is something that's very...
No, it's not. But we both know he's not going to pull the nomination. And to that end, let's talk really quickly. We have about a minute left. We have about a minute and a half left, Larry. Molly Hemingway did a great piece in The Federalist this week. We were talking about it yesterday, but I really wanted to have you weigh in on it because you're going to be here today. The Federalist is reporting that top officials from Mueller's office, namely Andrew Weissman, the number 2 over there, coordinated with Nellie Orr, the Russia specialist at Fusion GPS, and of course the wife of DOJ's, I should say, Bruce Orr. Now, the Federalist is noting that a senior member of the Justice Department, presumably Orr, repeatedly told top members of the FBI and DOJ about the dossier author Christopher Steele's bias against Donald Trump, and they disregarded it and went for the FISA warrant anyway. Larry, shouldn't this, and none of that was included in the FISA warrant, doesn't this, in terms of fruits of the poisonous tree and every other legal principle with regard to the rules of criminal procedure, doesn't this render Mueller's investigation tainted, null, and void? Shouldn't all of the pleas and all the prosecutions be vacated and dismissed with prejudice?
Well, it does, John, but who's going to do something about it in our government? That's why Jerry Corsi's brought a lawsuit against Mueller. That's why we have citizens' grand juries at Freedom Watch. But in the government, forget it. I mean, even the Attorney General said, I'm not going to look into Fusion GPS or anything like this. This is a matter of the past. So the American people are at a crossroads. We're in a revolution right now. I want to do it peacefully and legally, but they're going to have to rise up and in one manner, shape, or form demand that the government clean house of these criminals and crooks, because it's not going to happen with the way it's now been set up. And the president, unfortunately, has walked down the primrose path to his own possible destruction with this Attorney General nominee, Bill Barr, who is absolutely worthless and a member of the Washington establishment.
Yeah, it's not encouraging times we're in here, Larry. All right, Larry Klayman, my good friend, as always, thanks very much for being here and for the insights.
God bless.